On the morning of June 30th, 1908, something exploded over Siberia with 1,000 times the energy of the Hiroshima bomb. It flattened 80 million trees across an area the size of a major city, lit the night skies of Europe for days, and left no crater. More than a century later, not one confirmed fragment of whatever it has ever been found. This is the Tunguska event. At the Vanavara trading post, 60 kilometers from the blast, a man sitting on his porch saw the sky split in two, his words, and fill with fire. The heat, he said, felt like his shirt was burning off his back. Then the shockwave threw him through the air. Reindeer herders closer in were flung from their tents. Whole herds vanished. The thunder that followed was heard over 1,000 kilometers away. The planet itself took notice. The shockwave circled the Earth twice on scientific instruments. Microscopic dust in the high atmosphere scattered sunlight over Europe. For several nights, Londoners read newspapers outdoors at midnight, and photographers took street pictures by sky glow. Nobody connected the glowing nights to an explosion in a wilderness most had never heard of. And then nothing happened. The blast site was one of the most remote places on Earth. The Tsar's government had other concerns, and within a decade Russia fell into war, revolution, and civil war. The largest impact event in recorded history sat unexamined for 19 years, guarded by swamp, distance, and history's indifference. In 1927, the Soviet mineralogist Leonid Kulik finally hacked his way to the site, expecting to find a crater and a mountain of meteoric iron for Soviet industry. What he found instead made no sense: a colossal fan of felled trees, all pointing away from a central zone where the trees still stood upright, stripped of every branch like a forest of telegraph poles. And in the middle of it all, no hole in the ground, nothing. Compare the scene to Arizona's Meteor Crater. A rock a third the size of a football pitch punched a hole over a kilometer wide. Tunguska released far more energy and left swamp and standing trees. Kulik spent the rest of his life draining bogs and digging pits, convinced the iron lay hidden somewhere. He never found a single piece. Nobody since has done better. The modern explanation is an airburst, a stony asteroid or small comet, perhaps 50 to 60 meters across, detonating 5 to 10 kilometers up as the atmosphere crushed it, a natural bomb that vaporized its own evidence. In 2013, the sky over Chelyabinsk delivered a miniature demonstration, a 20-meter rock, exploding at high altitude, injuring 1,500 people. Tunguska was the same physics, 30 times stronger. The vacuum of evidence bred a century of wilder ideas. A fleck of antimatter, a microscopic black hole passing through the Earth, an exploding alien craft, a notion that began as a 1946 science fiction story and escaped into folklore, even Nikola Tesla's death ray misfiring from Long Island. Each theory thrived on the same fact: with no fragments and no crater, disproof was as hard as proof. Here is the number that matters. Events of this scale strike Earth every few centuries, and Tunguska missed civilization by pure rotation. Had the same object arrived hours later, it would have burst over St. Petersburg. That arithmetic is why planetary defense finally became real science. Sky surveys now track most large near-Earth asteroids, and in 2022, the DART spacecraft deliberately rammed one and moved it. Tunguska is the reason we practice. Today, the fallen forest has regrown, and researchers still argue over a lake that may or may not be a buried scar. The bottom line remains astonishing. The most powerful impact in recorded history left no crater, no fragments, and no answer beyond probably a rock we never found. The sky fired a warning shot, and the file is still open. Subscribe for more of history's unanswered explosions, and tell me, rock, comet, or something stranger.